Welcome to the Mitchell Pehlke Lacrosse Show presented by Duke Cannon. On today's episode, we're diving straight into Georgetown shocking Virginia, Duke upsetting Richmond, a Syracuse versus North Carolina preview, some Tewaaraton talk, and an interview with Through-X athlete Chloe Humphrey. Let's dive right into Georgetown taking down the Virginia Cavaliers in Charlottesville. The Hoyas won 14-10 and ended the Wahoo's dream of playing at home during the national championship. Dukes, what do you think went wrong for Virginia on Sunday night?
Dude, I mean, I know there's a lot of talk about Virginia winning the national championship. 3 out of the 4 games to win a national championship would be on their campus. I think a lot of people are shocked after the run they had last week. Georgetown's still a talented team, man. So, just remember that if somebody told you in the beginning of the season that Georgetown would beat Virginia in the first round, most people would probably expect that Georgetown was the 5 seed. They were a top 5 preseason team. So I'm not totally surprised that UVA lost to Georgetown. I'm surprised how Virginia lost this game. It was sloppy lacrosse. Tied the season high in turnovers. I want to know who was running the box for Virginia. Send them to the gulag. I don't know if it was Shelley, Greco, Cassis, but send them to the gulag. Make them run sprints. I think they had 6 turnovers in the second half alone just from failure to clear the ball. It was one of the sloppiest games I've ever witnessed. It just came down to being out-coached, which I didn't really expect to happen with the way that Virginia's transcended throughout the season. Kevin Warren, credit to him. I think his defensive plan, he's one of the best defensive minds in the game. I give him a lot of crap on this podcast, but he is, at the end of the day, one of the best defensive coaches in the country. I thought that he put on a defensive masterclass, and I just couldn't believe the sloppy turnovers that Virginia produced throughout the game. It was just very uncharacteristic of them. A lot of passes being batted out of the air. Brendan Millen had a couple. There's a lot of talks about which Millen brother would win the Tewaaraton. Everyone looks like idiots after that, but yeah, for me, it was just sloppy play in Charlottesville.
Yeah, I think for me, first of all, that was the best game I saw Georgetown play all year. That was the best they've looked to me against some of the top teams. We've said in years past they've won some of those big out-of-conference games, and then obviously they've went on to win the Big East. This year was kind of the opposite. They didn't win any of those out-of-conference games, and they really, quite frankly, weren't even really that close. They kind of got dominated in a couple of those big-time games. So, that was the best they looked all year watching that game. Anderson Moore was unbelievable in net. The Connor brothers, obviously, offensively. So this Georgetown team looked a complete 180 from what I've seen, from the beginning of the year. But the first thing I asked myself after the game, I'm just thinking in bed, I'm like, wow, all this, Virginia talked the last couple weeks too, because you just mentioned we're talking about McCabe and Brendan Millen getting snubbed from the Tewaaraton. Could they go on a run and those guys maybe should have deserved it, but they can't win it because they're not a finalist? Or the first thing I said is, did Virginia peak too early in that ACC tournament, or was Virginia just the same team they were all season long? A really, really good team, but not a championship weekend level team. And did we just drink the Kool-Aid last week because we saw how good they can be, in a 3-day span of, wow, this team's got it? Or was, looking back on the whole season, was this just the Virginia we saw this weekend? Was that what this Virginia team was all year? Because that's what it looked like against Towson. That's what it looked like earlier in the year, a couple of the losses. And I started to think to myself for a second, were we getting a little too ahead of ourselves, talking national championship, trying to get the Team of Destiny vibes, Mitch, and thinking of how sick it would be to have them win on their home field just because of what we saw in Charlotte?
Well, answer your question then. What do you think it was? Do you think it was that they peaked too early, or do you think that it's just been inconsistent all year long?
I think it was inconsistency, personally. I think that we saw exactly what this Virginia team can be on their best day in Charlotte, similar to what we saw with Duke in Chapel Hill of wow, when this team clicks and plays with their best with the talent they have, this is what this team can look like. But I think if you really, take the microscope and look at it from a top down now that the season's over, a lot of the stuff and the issues that we saw this weekend against Georgetown were evident all season long. And even in that ACC run, the offense was a little bit better and kind of masked a little bit of these deficiencies. But the undisciplined play for Virginia, I think this was just a team that was a very good team, a tournament team, but not ultimately a national championship team. And I think myself and a lot of people in the lacrosse world, after that ACC tournament, got ahead of ourselves and were like, whoa, this team's legit. This team's a national championship team. I don't know, looking back on it, if that was the right move.
Before KB goes, I just want to say this. I think that any team that beats Notre Dame twice is the farthest thing from a fluke. but that team was closer to the team that played Towson than the team that played Notre Dame, right?
Yes.
And I think that all of us could agree on that. And that's something that I haven't seen them play that sloppy since the Towson game. So that's why I'm like a little bit shocked by the way that they lost. Not that they lost. Like the games that they've lost in that span, it's just been because the other team was better, had a better game plan. It wasn't necessarily what I saw Sunday night. But without a doubt, I think all of us could agree. Fun, chaotic game. Sometimes sloppy lacrosse is fun to watch.
If Robbie Hopper hit
fun.
that shot, that would have been one of the best lacrosse plays in the history of the game. That would have been on highlight tapes and that was the most frantic, chaotic sequence of lacrosse.
Yeah, okay, I got one more. I lied, by the way. And this is my one last round on this game. Towards the end of that game, I was like, we were blessed to have the PLL because all I wanted was a 2-point line down 4 with Robbie Hopper having the ball. And I was like slinging it from 20 yards. Like there'd be a 2-goal game now, like 3-goal game. And like just having him in the opportunity to just sling 2s for 5 minutes straight, trying to tie that ball game up would have been so fun.
And I do think we talk about death taxes, Maryland Final Four. Now it's got to be death taxes, Georgetown quarterfinals, because this is 4 straight quarterfinal appearances for Georgetown. And 4 wins against really good teams. Beat Virginia this year. They beat Duke last year on the road. They beat Penn State the year before, and then Yale the year before that. So legit opponents they're beating in the first round now, 4 years in a row. They're getting there. They finally have to break through. Haven't been a championship weekend since 1999. That's the monkey on the back. Can they break it this weekend in the quarterfinals? That's the question. But we always say death tax Maryland Final Four. Until further notice now, it's got to be death taxes Georgetown quarterfinals at least.
Yeah, but you don't believe in them to win. You say you didn't win any games. But anyway, I got to mention this. Dukes, Hoagie, you both alluded to it. But last week's Millen outrage around the Tewaaraton Award, it feels really silly right now. I don't know what the conversation was like internally at Virginia, but the outrage was out of control about those guys not making the Tewaaraton finalists. The Connor brothers, Georgetown's Liam and Rory, got snubbed from this award finalists. Didn't see a word about it online. Then they went and took care of business on Sunday night. The Tewaaraton Award, every winner will say this, whether it's the Heisman, whether it's the MVP of any league, the Tewaaraton, they'll say it's a team award. I know it sounds cliche, but it's true. Your team has to win for you to be an MVP. Virginia finished this season 10-7, and they played a little over a month of good lacrosse. So the way I would solve this whole Tewaaraton finalist debacle, I would move it back 1 week. Let us watch the NCAA tournament first round, then let's set the finalists. I understand that they want to set, hey, here's 5 guys to watch heading into the NCAA tournament. It's star building. It's getting people interested in the sport. But if you come out 1 week later, those finalists look a lot different. Like Firth also, Willem Firth from Cornell also feels a little silly right now for him to be a finalist. I would raise the question, we're going to talk about it later, but Dom Petramala over Duffy, with Duffy being injured and Dom going off for 10 goals. Aiden McGuire, who just went first overall in the PLL draft. Might he be the best player in college lacrosse right now? I'd wait 1 more week, I think, and then put it out.
I disagree. I don't completely disagree, Kev. But off the rip, I do think that the regular season doesn't have to be rewarded. Like, I'm not going to reward the Connor brothers. Like, all season long, they didn't prove that they were one of the 9 best attackmen in the country. Sure, the numbers are there, but they're doing against the Big East. I've seen, at least, the Millen brothers do this against the top-end competition in the ACC, a team that sent 5 teams to the tournament. I think those numbers speak to me more. I'm not going to be like the Millen brothers don't deserve to be a finalist because of 1 game against Georgetown. Like, I'm not going to do the whole overreaction. Your general point, though, I could get around. I could get around that because I do think there's a lot, like Willem Firth being a finalist. Kind of looks dumb now. He had the numbers, but like we were talking when we do, for anyone with background information right now, we do like a pre-phone call. And I was like, guys, I actually want to make the argument this show on Friday when we get together. I'm like, I want to make the argument that it's better to be a team that's seeded 4 to 8 because it'll be the Virginia Georgetown game or the Cornell Hopkins game where like everyone's paying attention. It's not Notre Dame versus Jacksonville where like it's kind of the nap game. And what an idiot I am, because now you got Willem Firth out, Owen Duffy injured, and then who is the other one?
Joey or Kabiri.
Yeah.
Is probably what it's going to end up coming down to. If we're being honest, it most likely is going to be one of those 2.
And let me say this really quick, and then we'll move on to the next subject. Nobody is luckier than Joey Spallina right now for his Tewaaraton hopes. That the players that got knocked out.
We will talk about that, but just to wrap up this little point here on, I know games aren't won and lost on social media, but for a timeline, we filled out our brackets on Monday for the show, and then Tuesday the Tewaaraton Award finalists, and then the rest of the week was that outrage. As that outrage built, I was like, Virginia's going to lose this game. I picked Virginia.
Totally.
Virginia was on the graphic. Virginia was in my bracket. It was like, wait a minute. You ever just see the writing on the wall on social media before a game is played? That was what happened in my mind.
John Kirkage, shout out. He does a great job with Georgetown athletics. He DM'd me. He was like fading the Hoyas. I'm like, dude, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I could totally see the Hoyas winning this game. And again, the last thing I'll say about this whole debacle, they're college kids, right? Like, the Millen brothers. We had them on the interview. They said they stay off social media, but like their friends are on social media. They're hearing the buzz.
They're hearing about this.
They're hearing about. They're in group chat still. It's hard to ignore the noise. And you know what? When people are singing your praises, it's tough. It's tough not to get behind it. It probably feels good. I would not know. It's not good. No one was saying, Dukes, you should be winning the Tewaaraton. But I know I'd be eating that up.
No, I mean, when Hoagie and I were in the locker room at Ohio State, I mean, we were talking about meme accounts. We were talking about the best to the worst things. Like, if you're not on social media, you're still hearing it in the locker room.
I mean, everyone sees it. I mean, now we're lucky enough doing this show that we get to put our picks out on social media every single week on the graphic every week. I remember being in college on the bus rides to our games, Mitch, and seeing the pick'em graphics from TLN and Inside Lacrosse before the games. It would get sent in your group chat like, yo, 1 out of 5 picked us, or 4 out of 5 said we're going to win, 4 out of 5 said we're going to lose. Like, all these guys see all these picks and all these projections and stuff week to week. I vividly remember every weekend opening my phone up on the bus ride over, Mitch, and be like, oh, man, no one's got us this week, or they all got us this week.
I mean, at the end of the day, lacrosse is still, in my opinion, obviously in all of our opinions, a small sport. Everyone knows each other. And at the end of the day, we all know this stuff. But let's keep it all rolling. Obviously, the Connor brothers in Georgetown will play Duke on Sunday. But before we talk about that matchup, we got to shout out the Richmond Spiders, baby. They absolutely packed the barn and set the all-time attendance record for the first-round NCAA game. It's obviously a bummer. Their sort of run came to an end. We were obviously rooting for them. Dukes, let's stick with you here. We saw Richmond lose to Duke, while North Carolina hammered UAlbany without Owen Duffy. I know we just talked about that. But give us your 30-second elevator pitch on why the Spiders should have been the 3 seed and Carolina should have been the 4 seed.
One loss on a neutral field to Notre Dame. They went over 5-7 Georgetown. They weren't just A-10 merchants. They had a higher RPI than UNC. And they just had to play a team that just beat UNC. The whole thing, and that was my 30-second pitch on why they should have been the 3. But overall, it just pisses me off with everything that goes on with the committee. And, like, I know Hoagie's going to talk about Ohio State having played Notre Dame last year. I was busting your guys' chops about it. But it is ridiculous that as a sport that we're not seeding it like based on like UNC didn't want to match up UNC against Duke because they don't want rematches in the first round. Fine. But then in the second round, we're getting potential matchups with UNC Syracuse playing for a third time. When you're going by favorites, if Richmond won this game, they're going to have a rematch with either Georgetown or Virginia. I think the whole thing is just so stupid. RPI, everything, throw it out. Like, we need to just do a whole rework on the NCAA tournament and like what we're using to get teams in, what we're using to get teams matched up on, and we, frankly, expand the tournament.
I mean, I agree with you. I think that the whole geography stuff is outdated, and we need to move on from that. Where it's like, I get it, there's budget issues, there's limitations, but I don't think that it should solely be based on like, oh, well, this is the closest proximity, so we send these teams there. But in the same breath, I saw it on social media all weekend after Richmond lost. People saying they got screwed, people saying they got unfair. To me, I think that's ridiculous. I saw Jake Malasek tweet that, and a lot of people are going after him when he raised that point of like, it's the NCAA tournament, right? Like, every team in this is good enough to win. It's not like Duke was this world beater team that everyone was, didn't want to play, yada, yada, yada. We talked about, they'd much rather play Georgetown. Georgetown just went on the road to beat UVA. We said, they'd much rather see Hopkins last week. Hopkins just went to Ithaca and beat Cornell. So whoever you were going to play in that first round, if you want to win a national championship, you're going to have to beat a lot more teams better than Duke, Georgetown, and probably Johns Hopkins along the way to win a national championship. So for people to say that Richmond got screwed, I think is ridiculous. No one was saying this last year when Ohio State had to play Notre Dame in the first round and lost. It was all like, Ohio State, the same Ohio State, they get blown out. So meanwhile, Penn State
they lost
was
by 13.
At the same breath, though, I just Richmond's a great team. They didn't play the strength of schedule North Carolina did. They had great wins earlier in the year, even though sometimes, Dukes, you say those wins don't count earlier in the year when Richmond did beat those teams. But still, they didn't play the same strength of schedule that North Carolina and all those other teams did. Richmond had a great season. They're a great team. But to say they got screwed with a matchup playing Duke, who's one of the last teams into the tournament, if you're not a 1 or 2 seed and sometimes a 3, you're going to have to play a top team. And if you want to win a national championship, you're certainly going to have to keep winning against big-time games. So I think the argument that they got screwed on seeding and playing Duke is ridiculous.
I do agree with you, and I do hate when the arguments gets brought up, but I do think that the draw matters. Like, look, we talk about it like even last year when people are like, "Oh my God, they made a quarterfinals." Like, a quarterfinals is realistically winning one game unless you have the play.
Especially at the top, yes.
It's just one game. So when you do have a difference in a matchup of playing a UAlbany team with like a banged up Silas Richmond, or you're playing Duke, pissed off, angry, hungry, just beat UNC, might have has a week of rest, it is a tough draw. Like, you would rather have Albany in that case. So
of course,
then you're one game away. And I know that I'm on the train that Richmond will be back, but man, looking at how that shook out, you're 1 win away. If you hold on to that fourth quarter lead, which they blew away, they got their freshman faceoff guy didn't step up. Cal Girard had a career night. If you just win a couple more faceoffs, a couple more draws, you win that game. Then you got Georgetown, who you already beat, who hasn't been to a Final Four since 1999. That is a nice path for Richmond. So I think that they are going to be thinking about this one until they hopefully get
I mean, it doesn't set up much better. It's the best team in program history that they had at home under the lights against a 5th-place ACC team. This was all set up for them to go on a run. I really thought they were going to get it once they went up 12-9, especially after that Hail Mary to Aiden O'Neal.
That was crazy.
That was one of the sickest plays I've ever seen. Once that went, I saw the crowd. I felt the juice. I was like, wow, they're going to get it done, especially when they went up 3. But shout out to the crowd, too. Largest first-round crowd in NCAA tournament history. Robins Stadium, they packed it. People in Virginia, Richmond, love the sport of lacrosse. That was clear this weekend. Special, special atmosphere. My favorite atmosphere of round 1 watching on TV. It looked unbelievable. Wish I was there.
Hoagie, after you questioned them, obviously, all year long, Duke is 1 win away from, obviously, championship weekend. How are you feeling about the Duke Blue Devils?
Yeah, I mean, Duke is 1 win away from going to the Final Four, to making championship weekend after all the drama, all the debate. Should they be in? Do they deserve to? I was very critical of them getting into the tournament. I didn't think they deserved it based on their body of work. I think they backdoored their way in. They got lucky with kind of a weak bubble to that degree. When it all shaped out on Selection Sunday, I didn't have a problem with them getting in just because there was really no one else to put in ahead of them. But yeah, I mean, I always knew if Duke got in, they have the talent to be able to, make a run to championship weekend, especially with what you saw in Chapel Hill in that last game, against North Carolina when they just blitzed them start to finish. But looking back on this now, I think Duke might have the luckiest path to championship weekend in college lacrosse history. They missed the ACC tournament. They finished last in the ACC. They did not beat a single Big Ten team this year. They did not beat a single Ivy League team this year. They won 1 ACC game. And no disrespect to Richmond or Georgetown, but they got to play an A-10 team in round 1 and then a Big East team in the quarterfinals. So they have the opportunity to now make championship weekend without playing a Power 3 school to get there. How lucky can they possibly be that after the year they had to have everything go right, all 8 things that they needed to go right during conference tournament week, to go right for them to get into the NCAA tournament and to not have to face a Power 3 team on their road to championship weekend, plus didn't beat a Big Ten or an Ivy League team all year. I think, to me, Duke has the luckiest path to championship weekend of all time.
Hoagie, that is a very unique path. I do think it's slightly disrespectful to Richmond. And I'm going to say right now, this isn't your average Georgetown team. I've been the Georgetown guy on this podcast. I didn't give up on them after they got trounced at the Dome. All 3 of you all jumped on the Denver bandwagon. What has Georgetown done since then? Well, first of all, they beat Duke last year, so Duke shouldn't be feeling too lucky going into this matchup. They just took down the ACC champs Virginia, and I think they're on the same level as any Big Ten or Ivy League team, even though they don't play in those conferences. 10-1 in their last 11 games, 8-game winning streak. The only team hotter than them in college lacrosse right now is Princeton, and I think they have all the tools to be a Final Four team finally this year. First time since 1999. The Connor brothers we mentioned, but they also have a great goalie in Anderson Moore, a shutdown defenseman in Ty Banks, and Jack Ransom. That dude is a dog. He's awesome. I think they got a lot of guys who could step up. Georgetown's going to the Final Four this week.
Yeah, and Ken, let me just say really quick. You're talking about like the Big East, Atlantic 10. You're acting like we're talking about like Hobart and Providence that they're playing. They're playing two teams preseason top 10. They're probably better than any mid-10 team that's left in the tournament too. The Big Ten, we're acting like with some world beaters this year. All those teams had a chance to get in. I think it's a tad disrespectful to these teams. Georgetown was a top 5 preseason team.
No, I don't mean disrespect those teams. Those teams are great teams. Georgetown and Richmond are great teams. I just think if you asked a path to championship weekend where you wouldn't have to play a Big Ten team or an Ivy League team in a year where you didn't beat a Big Ten or Ivy League team, you finished last in the ACC, won one ACC conference game, and now you're a game away from championship weekend, I don't think we've ever seen a path go as perfectly planned or as put on a silver platter than
You're
Duke's
slapping the logo of their conference on those teams and using it to drag them down. Richmond peaked at number 1 this year. They only lost 1 game. Richmond was one of the best teams in college lacrosse this year. And you're just calling them an A10 team.
I have no disrespect to Richmond. They had a great season.
You hate Richmond.
I don't hate Richmond. Tell me another team that's had a path this good than Duke had this year in terms of how they got to get in after they did nothing in the regular season. Then they get in and get that path that they got given. I'll wait until you find a better and easier path.
I will.
Oh, now you're saying easy. That's wrong. Luckier, you had a point. Easier, that's disrespectful.
Yeah,
Find a luckier path. Find a luckier path to championship weekend than what Duke has this year.
It's unusual.
There was 2 unseeded teams that matched up, and like one had to beat UMBC to make the Final Four. I'd say that was probably easier or luckier to make a Final Four.
When did they
I'll
play
find it right
UMBC?
now for you, but this is bad podcasting.
Yeah. It's definitely not the easiest. It's not even the easiest this year of all the teams in the tournament.
Delaware beat UMBC. Delaware
year?
beat Virginia, then beat UMBC. 2000. I don't know. It was probably the year they went, so 2007.
Yeah, but Virginia plays in the ACC, so I don't even need to know what their record was that year or if they had any good players that year. They played in the ACC, so that was a tougher path.
Tougher path, potentially a tough game.
Oh, also, by the way, Mitch is about to bring up another topic right now that we're going to roll into, and this team might be on the luckiest path this year.
Oh,
Duke and Georgetown both staged up this weekend. Obviously, big upsets. But 2 teams who are obviously in the running are the Syracuse Orange and the North Carolina Tar Heels. They'll play on Saturday at Hofstra, right next to Duke's hometown. Joey Spallina, a Long Island native, will return to Hofstra Stadium after his 8-goal performance in the quarterfinals last year. But his fellow Long Islander and former number 1 overall recruit, Owen Duffy, might not play. He missed the UNC's first-round game against UAlbany. Hoagie, is there any update on Duffy's health status?
Owen Duffy's status is the biggest question mark in college lacrosse right now, and honestly holds the keys to a lot of narratives from Tewaaraton to potential national championship. Duke will probably talk about it in a little bit, but I thought it was interesting. During halftime of the Syracuse and Yale game, Quinn Kesnick casually just mentioned that Owen Duffy tore his hamstring, which I didn't think was that big of public knowledge, at least online. I know people might have had speculation, but I don't think anyone quite literally knew exactly what was going on. And if that is true, a hamstring, whether you fully tore it or partially tear, there's obviously various different levels of a hamstring tear. Either way, I don't think Owen Duffy's going to be 100%, even if he does play this weekend or does play the rest of the way. That's an injury that, we saw Pat Cavanaugh went famous for the, viral makeshift hamstring in championship weekend. But either way, Owen Duffy, Dom Petramala is unbelievable, but Owen Duffy's kind of like that explosiveness on that offense, that athletic guy, that great 1-2 punch to add in there. And if he's at 100%, that's a big question mark for North Carolina if they can win this weekend, but also moving forward. And UNC's already beat Syracuse twice this year. The third time they're going to play could potentially be without Owen Duffy or a not healthy Owen Duffy. I don't think it sets up much better if you're a Syracuse fan than having that in the quarterfinals.
Kev, you talked about how the Connor brothers deserve maybe some Tewaaraton love. Dom Petramala, obviously this past weekend, broke the NCAA tournament single-game goals record against Albany. If Duffy's out and this hamstring thing is true, is Dom due for another Tewaaraton level performance?
Well, first of all, I'll say Dom is definitely loving the extra touches with
Yes.
Duffy out. But I think Syracuse's on-ball defense is a lot tougher than UAlbany's was last week. So someone else is going to have to get the defense spinning. Dom's at his best when he's able to work off-ball as a cutter, finding space on the backside and ripping it. But Syracuse likes to slide on defense. They're kind of aggressive, kind of crazy, go for those turnovers. I think UNC has the midfielders to get the defense moving and find Dom Petramala on the backside. But this is interesting. Hoagie, you mentioned they played twice already this year, but those games, although UNC won both of them, kind of were a little different when you look at Dom and Duffy. In the first one, Dom feasted, had 5 goals, and then in the rematch in Charlotte in the ACC semifinals, Dom was pretty quiet, only 1 goal, while Duffy had 7 points, 6 of them coming on assists. So I don't know if it's a game of whack-a-mole for that Syracuse defense. Maybe it's much easier to if one of them's already out, you can just focus on the other one. So I think spotlight is on North Carolina's freshman midfielders. Anthony Rea, if there's a guy out there who needs to take over and have a big coming of age moment in the quarterfinals, I think he's a guy who could step up and be a star.
Dukes, your favorite team, Syracuse and Joey Spallina. If they win this game, would that seal the Tewaaraton for Joey Spallina?
I think so. I think Joey, and I won't be mad. Like I do love and appreciate what Joey's done for Syracuse and for the sport of lacrosse. Like having that target in your back, having like a bunch of haters, like being able to like silence the critics. Like it would be cool if anyone's getting like a lifetime achievement award. Like doesn't really feel like a year where I feel like Joey ran away with it, like some might have thought. But I would have no problem if Joey ends up winning the Tewaaraton. With that said, this Saturday has turned into a game that Syracuse could win to a game they should win. We're not talking about, as Hoagie might call it, some A10 or Big East school. We're talking about the Syracuse Orange, a team with high expectations, this core, and you're going to get UNC for the 3rd time, and they don't have Owen Duffy. That's not a game that, like, you should walk away from and be like, man, wish we could have done better. That's a game that you have to go in and be like, this is, like, I would think differently of this Syracuse core depending on the outcome of this game. And I do think that this might be an easier path than playing Georgetown like Duke is. You're getting an absolute X factor. A Tewaaraton finalist is out of this game for you. Someone that just put up 7 points on you a week ago. That's luck.
If Syracuse loses this game to North Carolina and Owen Duffy doesn't play, we are going to have major questions, not only about this Syracuse senior group, but also we might need to start having the conversation about Gary Gait. I'm just going to plant that seed right now. If they can't get that done on Long Island with all that's on stake, playing North Carolina, if you lose to the Tar Heels for the 3rd time this year without a Tewaaraton level player playing, a Tewaaraton finalist on the field, playing an Owen Duffy, we're going to have serious conversations, because what this team would have accomplished in the 4 years of the Syracuse team was, let's be real, it would be a failure if they didn't advance the championship weekend this year. Call it how it is.
And people really, I know it's a woulda, coulda, shoulda, but I still love to play a little revisionist history. Like, you are a comeback away in the Dome from them not even leaving the first round last year. You're a kick save and a butte from potentially losing in overtime last night to Yale. That's a Yale team. If John Mullen didn't have a career night and didn't get his mojo back last night, Yale probably wins that game with average draw play. 16-15. Jimmy McCool played on his head at the end of that game. But I really want to touch on something that Kev said that I completely agree with. I was just rewatching the Syracuse-Yale game before we hopped on the podcast, right? Something that Yale did magnificent in the first half. Downhill dodging from their midfields. Athletic, beat the short sticks. What's been the Achilles heel for Syracuse all season long? The short stick D-middies. I firmly believe that if they are going to win this game without Owen Duffy, Anthony Rayo needs to show why he's the king of Long Island and not Owen Duffy, and have a career day. Needs to get those wheels turning. I'm talking downhill dodging, open it up like Kev said, like for Dom Petramala, because I don't know if Dom can be the alpha male that he wants to be, consistently beating, and that'll be huge, because I think that Dom's an excellent player, but he's one of those guys that, like, coming off a career day when you have 10 goals, like, is he going to try to play hero ball? If Dom decides, like, to not play hero ball so much and trust these young guns, I think UNC can pull it off, but that's going to be the recipe and the X factor for me.
Hoagie, let's bounce to you real quick. Duke just mentioned it, but obviously we've talked about Joey. We've talked about Duffy and Dom. Like Duke said, Jimmy McCool had 2 clutch saves in the final minute against Yale. Is he Cuse's X factor here in May?
Without a doubt, he's our X factor. He was huge in the second half against Yale this weekend. I saw a lot of people in the first half saying, we're done with McCool, he's not playing well, yada, yada, yada on Twitter. And second half, he just balled out, including at the end with those 2 kick saves. Absolutely huge to seal the game at the end. He saved Syracuse's season. I saw Kev, I think it was you or TLN's tweet of like, he shouldn't have to buy a drink at Syracuse ever again. I mean, he saved this Syracuse senior class with those 2 kick saves there at the end. But to me, Jimmy McCool is going to be the guy who ultimately determines how far Syracuse goes to me. They aren't good enough to win without him playing elite. We've seen this year in the biggest games against some of the biggest teams, they have fallen short in a lot of those big games. If Jimmy McCool doesn't play well, I think they're done. Whether Owen Duffy plays or not, I think he's going to end up being the reason why they either do or don't make championship weekend or win a national championship. I think it's all in Jimmy McCool's hands. If he plays hot, they got a chance. If he doesn't, they're going to be going home this weekend.
Yeah, especially since North Carolina just made a goalie switch, too. I mean, if you're looking at the goalie game here, Syracuse should have the advantage.
Yeah,
it's going to be a good
that's
one.
Something I do want to touch on that really quick. I do think that's an interesting move, and I think was smart by Bresci.
Me too.
I think that's you're seeing with the senior goalie. I'm fairly positive.
Yes.
Getting someone in. Freshman clearly rattled down the stretch.
Yeah.
Going in, knowing the pressure's on his back. I think that was one of the best coaching decisions. Time will tell. But I mean, against Silas, did Silas have a point this weekend?
No, he didn't. Albany's offense didn't really have the ball very much. Let's not judge him off one game, please.
No. I was saying,
Please.
I saw
This is
some of
getting
that.
personal, Dukes. Don't attack his son.
Come on, everyone knows I love Silas.
No, I mean, you and I both got a lot of hate for our picks. You got a lot of hate for that Yale pick, and people were calling me delusional for having Albany beating UNC in my bracket. I think we were both maybe making an emotional pick, but yours turned out to be way more realistic.
Yeah, I mean, if that around the world, my phone died when I was tweeting it out. If that around the world went, that would have been the coolest, and rattle off 3 straight goals in less than 4 minutes, force overtime at the Dome. That was a great game to begin with. But Joey, I think it's very interesting. I love how Joey's playing, at least his potential last game or one of his last games at Hofstra, where Joe Sr. coached for the Lizards all those years. And
Ball knower.
It's going to be pretty cool to see how Joey responds on that field, coming off of last year's emotional, high-octane offense game where, it was like 17-16 final.
Yeah, iconic. I guess I can't dodge quote.
Yeah,
Never
I mean,
forget
he
that.
looked like a different player on that field last year. So
Yeah. So, and
We'll
shout
see.
out, in that game, the last shout out that I think Yale deserves, new Buckeye, Patrick Pisano.
Patrick
played
Pisano's coming to Columbus, baby.
The pipeline
bringing that
is going.
offense.
Yeah, I know that.
Kev.
Kev, they're going to need like 2 goals next year to win games.
Well, it's going to be a good one. Obviously, the Orange play
Mid-10.
the Tar Heels on Saturday at 2:30 ESPNU. But this past Saturday, Johns Hopkins upset Cornell in an overtime thriller. Kev, what stood out for you in that game?
All right, this is going to be a really crazy take, but I think that lacrosse games should be played on lacrosse fields. The blue lines in a couple of these games were absolutely tragic. There was multiple issues around the crease in the Duke-Richmond game, in that night game, but bigger than that was Charlie Eiler's hand touched down in the crease in overtime. And the refs either didn't see it or didn't call it. Ball goes out of bounds. Hopkins backs it up. And then they get another chance and they score and they win the game. So I thought that was a little crazy. I think the blue lines got to go. Players need to be able to see the lines so they can make plays. Refs need to be able to see them so they can make the right calls. And fans need to be able to see them at home. I think it's a bigger issue than you guys think, maybe, because this is a moment during the NCAA tournament when casual fans and new fans are tuning in. And if I see a football field with a bunch of different lines on it and a bunch of different colors, I'm confused. I have no idea what's going on. I'm turning it off. Look at Klockner Field. Klockner Field for the Virginia-Georgetown game was pristine. It was beautiful. It was the only field all weekend long that had only men's lacrosse lines on it. Now, part of that is because their women's team has been eliminated, but you saw, like, for example, Arlotta and Dorrance, they also had the men's and the women's. I'll give them some leeway for that because their teams were alive for the NCAA tournament. But I think that games should be played on lacrosse fields. And if you're saying, like, well, it's a money thing and a program thing, maybe they don't need an 11th alternate jersey. You know, let's divert the money for a lacrosse-only field. That's my thought. For the fans.
I think, too, to bring you back into the locker room, when Hoagie and I were playing, and I remember playing on offense against defenders, they're using, like, quote-unquote, the lacrosse lines to help them when they need to know to, like, go out on a defender or slide. When you look down and you see so many different lines, it's honestly like a headache, so it's a big plus for the offense. But I agree with you, Kev. This is the place where we need to go.
Though, Mitch. I know at least our defense liked the football field over the lacrosse-only field in terms of being able to see where the players were because the hash marks and so on and so forth. It would be able to tell how far out or how close they were. I know at least when we were at Ohio State, that was a big thing for our defenders. We had the stadium our senior year, but before that we played in the shoe, and then a lot of the teams we played, Maryland, was in a stadium. Our defenders really use the hash marks in certain lines of the football field as yard markers to be like, okay, if he gets to, this spot on the hash, we're going to have to slide. When it's more open and there's no lines, it creates a little bit more indecisiveness. So it is interesting.
What color were the lines? Like, at least at Syracuse, they're bright yellow.
Ohio State has yellow. We had yellow when we played at the shoe before
Blue on green grass makes no sense to me.
It's tough.
And really tough.
I do think
had
it's
yellow?
interesting, too. We had yellow, yeah.
Weird.
I do think it's interesting, too. We talk about, like, Eiler's hand potentially being in the crease. I saw that picture on social media. We obviously had Collison with the throwing the stick thing a couple weeks back with two questionable calls there. And, I mean, I know we don't want to go too much into the weeds of it, but, like, if that Collison goal doesn't count, Hopkins doesn't win that game. They go from the 1 seed to the 3 seed. Maryland's in the tournament. Hopkins would have had to play Penn State in the semis. They could have lost, not been in the tournament. So a lot of different things shaken out with some of these strange little calls going the Blue Jays' way the last couple weeks.
Nah, it's all the culture.
Hoagie, let's stick with you there. You got clipped by Hopkins this past week after saying they didn't have a shot against Cornell. What do you have to say for yourself when you see stuff like that?
I mean, I loved it. You know what we said? We have all these takes that we come on here each week and we give our opinions. Social media, they got free game to clap back at me when I'm wrong. I raised my hand up. I did not think Hopkins was going to be able to go into Ithaca and get that done. They proved me wrong, and social media let me know. I love that. I remember opening up my Instagram account. That was the first thing that came up. I saw Mitch's face on there, and I go, oh, Lord, it pans out to me.
Here we go.
And I go, here we go, baby. So,
did they tag you?
No, they didn't tag me. But shout out to the Hopkins team. I mean, that's how you got to do it.
There's no such thing as a free lunch. Give the boy a tag if you're gonna hustle.
I loved it. I loved it when I saw it. I think that's a great way to show the humor of their stuff. And Johns Hopkins does a great job on social media. But I think for me, the two biggest takeaways I really had from this game, and I've been on record here, Mitch, we talked about it, saying I think Cornell has the best culture in college lacrosse. That was something that you've evidenced through your vlog, and even me last year, seeing it up close on their national championship run, really all the different things they have within that program make it special. I think Johns Hopkins' culture and I think Peter Milliman deserve a ton of respect. To me, this weekend, culture won Johns Hopkins that game this weekend. If you watch that game, they were down early in that game. Every end line, they're diving. Every hustle play went to Hopkins. You want to talk about that GB in overtime by Luke Martin to seal that penalty, which ended up sealing the game for Hopkins. Those guys are never out of it. They went on the road to Virginia. They were getting blown out. They came back. They were getting blown out at home by Penn State. They came back and won. That's culture. That's toughness. And Hopkins, to me, looking at it, has one of the best cultures in college lacrosse. You see it week to week. And I also think Peter Milliman deserves a lot more respect than what he gets online from social media. I know the standard at Johns Hopkins is national championships. I know they haven't been to championship weekend since 2015. He's got to get over the hump. He's got a great chance this weekend to do that. But Peter Milliman deserves more respect as he's going to his third quarterfinal now in 4 years at Johns Hopkins. They just beat the defending national champions Cornell. They now have a chance to take the back-to-back prior national champions Notre Dame, beat them. So he has a chance to beat the last three national champions to get back to championship weekend, get the monkey off their back. To me, Peter Milliman deserves some more respect than what we see online. Everyone loves to meme on him. And I really think culture wins in May. The locker room, the toughness, all that stuff is what wins these games in the NCAA tournament. Johns Hopkins won that game this weekend because of that locker room, because of the culture. It was obvious if you watched it. Shout out Johns Hopkins.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that, like, for Georgetown, culture is winning round one games, but for Hopkins, it's winning the quarterfinals games, and they have, here's your clip, they have no shot in beating Notre Dame. Zero shot. It's going to be another, 0 for 4 for Hopkins and Peter Milliman in the quarterfinals. He'll never be to a Final Four still, Cornell included. He's had some wonderful talent. Johns Hopkins was the only team that won the Big Ten, and other than one seed, so they're actually my champion, that didn't post about being a co-Big Ten champ. They clearly care and count only Final Fours and national championships in that culture. So, like, I think what Milliman's doing is cute. I think it's underrated, and I do think that, like, he could benefit the most optics-wise from making a Final Four out of any of these crops of coaches. Kevin Warren included it, in my opinion. Because Peter Milliman, if you had a blind resume of him next to Gary Gate, and you had to choose one going into the future, I'm probably choosing Peter Milliman. I think he's now a 2-time Big Ten Coach of the Year, 2 to 3-time co-Big Ten Champ of the Year. Like, his resume isn't as bad as what it is perceived, but none of these accolades matter without getting to the Final Four. It's the standard at Hopkins. If he was the coach at Georgetown, he'd be in the Hall of Fame. But he's not. He's at
also
Hopkins.
wanna say,
At Ohio State, they'd have a statue for him outside.
I also want to say with Hopkins.
You're Hopkins. You compare yourself to Maryland. You don't compare yourself to Ohio State.
I think Hopkins, too. I know they're one of the blue bloods of the sport, second most NCAA tournament appearance of all time. But especially as of late, I'm talking about in the Peter Milliman era, they're not getting the same level of 5-star recruits. They haven't had those top-end recruits like some of the top of the ACC has and those other teams. I don't think so, at least, Mitch, when you look at like their recruiting rundowns, they're not really in the conversation for those top 10-ish type players. So yep. I do think it is special when you want to say blind rank Gary Gate and Peter Milliman's resume. Like, I think if you put those two equal with what Peter Milliman's had at Hopkins, his run has been pretty darn impressive for what he's been able to do. I know the first couple of years were rough, really building it back up, but I think the last 4 years at Hopkins, he's still not at the standard of what Hopkins wants to be, but they're trending in the right direction, in my opinion.
He's just too up and down. I mean, I've bought and sold Peter Milliman stock like 5 times until he makes a Final Four. If he ever does, like, that's the standard at Hopkins. I won't go all the way in on him, but I think going to the team the school that you used to coach at, winning on the road, getting some lucky calls, tip my hat. Like, by the way, Brendan Staub, GCG. That was GCG. No. Let me just talk about a blown call really quick. That really pissed me off now that I'm like, Brendan Staub, for anybody, did you guys watch the run out?
Yes.
He 100% got there. That I thought was a more blown call than the hand in the crease.
Yeah, well, and the one after that with Dooley was also closer.
Yes.
They missed it twice. In my opinion.
You want to talk about program-defining win? That's the definition of a Peter Milliman era. That's the biggest win of his career at Hopkins.
No.
You don't think that to date? What's a bigger win that he's had to date than that win?
Like beating Maryland in the regular season.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like winning a round
their
one
two
game for
previous
Peter
wins
Milliman
in the
doesn't
first
do
round
anything.
were over Bryant and someone else who wasn't a Power 3 type school.
Hoax. Round one games mean nothing at Hopkins.
I understand, but I'm saying in terms of what Peter Milliman's done in his career at Hopkins, I think that was the biggest win of his career. It definitely gets some monkeys off the bat from him, from a lot of alumni who really wanted him gone. For him to go to Ithaca, beat the defending champs, a team that looked like a top 5 team a week ago, to go into their place and win after being down by 3 goals at halftime. They were getting outperformed that whole first half. To have a comeback win there and get that win, I don't see how that's not the biggest win of Peter Milliman's tenure at Johns Hopkins.
You don't make me do this. You're making me do it. I'm doing it. Literally a week ago, they lost by 10 in the Ivy Championship. They did not look like
Hopkins
a top 5
lost
team in
by
that
8
game.
too. Not in that game, but coming into that game, they had won 6 straight. They were one of the hottest teams in the second half of the year.
I just had to bust your chops, Hoax. I was like, this is the 1 week that you can't say a week ago, but I get your general point.
Hoax, we're gonna stick with you here because this is your time to shine, baby. The last 4 teams in the quarterfinals for us, obviously previewing the Hoagie Bowl, baby. It's the James Hogan V's Princeton Tigers against the James Hogan V's Penn State Nittany Lions, baby. Hoagie, you picked Princeton to win this game in your bracket. 2 questions. Are you sticking with them? And are you in or not? Tell us the why.
Yeah, when the minute the bracket came out, Mitch, I texted you right away. I was like, oh, my God, my two teams are going to play in the quarterfinal round. I felt that, Mitch. We were on the field after the Big Ten championship game at Rutgers. I told you, Mitch, I think they're going to slide into, like, that 7 or 8 spot when they won. I'm like, I'm hoping it's the 7 because I'm picking them to beat Notre Dame if they were playing in the quarterfinal. But then I go, oh, they play the 8. They got to play Princeton. I'm sticking with Princeton. I love Penn State, but I love Princeton a little bit more. I think Princeton, at the end of the day, they're too deep offensively. I think they're going to have a little bit more than Penn State does. But I think for me, Ryan Croddick in goal is going to be the biggest thing. I love Preston Hawkins. He's had a huge second half of the year. But Ryan Croddick's played in these games before. He's been on the biggest stages in these moments. He's in a quarterfinal last year. Preston Hawkins, true freshman, this is his first taste of it. I also think Andrew McMeekin is a guy that can go toe-to-toe with that elite Penn State faceoff duo. He had a good weekend this year. This past weekend against Marist, so I think he can, maybe not go over 50% because I really love Reed Gills and Colby Baldwin, but I think he can keep that competitive. And at the end of the day, I just think Princeton has a little bit more explosiveness, plus the little indecisiveness that Penn State's played with this year. It was close. I was thinking about taking Penn State before the bracket came out, but I'm sticking with Princeton. They're my national champion. I got them beating Penn State. But I wouldn't be shocked if Penn State won. I wouldn't be at all.
All right. I got one last Tewaaraton thought on having to do with this game. And Dukes, you said earlier that if Syracuse wins, they make it to the Final Four, then Joey Spallina basically locks up Tewaaraton. I think that he needs to win that game. Syracuse needs to win that game, and they also need Penn State to pull off an upset because they need Nate Kabiri out of the picture. And one thing I was listening to on the broadcast, Jules Henneberg was on that call, and he was talking to the Princeton coaching staff, and he was asking, what about Nate Kabiri's game stands out so well? And the coaching staff called out his stick protection, which got me looking up turnover numbers, which is not one we always talk about. We talk about the points, but we're all football fans here. Mitch, I know you could explain this perfectly well, but think about a quarterback with a touchdown to interception ratio. Touchdowns when he throws it to his team in the end zone, interception when he accidentally throws it to the other team.
The opposite team.
Let's make an analogy here for a touchdown to interception ratio, but let's do points to turnovers. So a good quarterback touchdown to interception ratio, you want it to be 2-to-1 or higher, 3-to-1, 4-to-1. You're getting into the Patrick Mahomes range. Spallina and Duffy are both hanging around a 2-to-1 ratio. Spallina's got 79 points, 38 turnovers. Duffy's got 69 points, 33 turnovers. Those are both about 2-to-1. Nate Kabiri has 76 points and only 14 turnovers. That's over 5 points for every 1 turnover that he has. So that's incredibly efficient. Nate Kabiri, I think the big criticism is people think, I can't see a Nate Kabiri clip. I can't think of what Nate Kabiri is doing that's so exceptional. I've seen Spallina, I've seen Duffy do these crazy things. I think it's what you don't see in Nate Kabiri. He is so efficient, so effective, and he doesn't mess up. And he's the key to that offense. So I think that Nate Kabiri is actually in the driver's seat, one, because of the strength of the Princeton Tigers, and two, when you look at that total point to turnover ratio, Nate Kabiri is off the charts.
Yeah.
Bang.
I think that's a very fair point. I think at the end of the day, if it's like a tie goes to the runner, tie goes to Joey Spallina.
Yes.
Nate Kabiri is winning this. If Princeton wins the national championship, Nate Kabiri is winning the Tewaaraton. I don't see how you can't get that.
I think Sean Light, if he wants the path, his best path at winning it is Joey Spallina winning this weekend, and then Nate Kabiri, and then getting matched up and shutting them both out. That is how Sean Light wins it.
Yeah.
And then if Penn State wins, bad for Sean Light.
But dude, if that happened, would Sean Light actually get it, you think?
I do. Yeah, I do. Because I think that, again, Kev's not wrong with the whole storyline base. Again, I think that Joey Spallina if they don't know who to give it to, it'll go to Joey Spallina. I think it'll be a lifetime achievement thing. If everyone's pretty much on the same playing field. I do think that Sean Light, if you're talking about the main spotlight, you end Joey Spallina's career, and he has 1-1 or 0-1, maybe one man-up goal, and then you shut out Nate Kabiri, Princeton, in the national championship, everyone watching. You're getting Kark glazing you on national TV about how you're the best defender he's ever seen, Team USA. Kark will be doing his job overtime for Sean Light's Tewaaraton campaign.
Nate Kabiri has it. Nate Kabiri.
You guys all know that, right? Like that's the biggest compliment I could give Kark. Yeah.
No,
Can
not
you hear it already?
Kark would probably say thank you.
Nate Kabiri's in the driver's seat. I'm telling you, he has. If Princeton goes all the way, it's his award to win. So Joey needs Princeton, in my opinion, to get knocked out. Because even though I do love your point on Sean Light, Dukes, I think that's a really good point. I do think it would have to be Sean Light erasing Spallina like in the semifinal. Like, let's just say Syracuse and Notre Dame played in the Final Four and Joey still had like 4 points. I think Joey would still get it if Princeton had got knocked out. I think the only way Sean Light gets it as a defender is blanks Joey in the semis and then blanks Kabiri in the final. I think if Joey puts up some points, he's going to get it if they make championship weekend. If Princeton gets knocked out, obviously.
I know we're moving into the weeds a little bit, but just let me. I do think that if Princeton wins the national championship too, I think actually Chad Palumbo will be the person that's talked about the most on championship weekend. And I don't know how you give it to Nate Kabiri after everyone on in the national spotlight is talking about Chad Palumbo more.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing working against Nate Kabiri, in my opinion, is Chad Palumbo is the flashier player. He's a bit more of a goal scorer. I mean, Kabiri has more points and way fewer turnovers on the season, but Palumbo is more the story. And also when you talk about Tewaaraton, this is kind of like the underrated aspect of it. It's not just the points. It's kind of like the lacrosse player embodying the spirit of the Tewaaraton as well. And I feel like that's so Chad Palumbo. But if you're just going best player, Nate Kabiri is the best player on Princeton.
I got one for you guys really quick that with Owen Duffy and the hamstring. Well, I think that Owen Duffy's campaign obviously is hindered times 10. What does he have to do in your guys' mind to win the Tewaaraton? Is it win the national championship?
He's got to get a rubber band like Pat Cav and tape that thing up.
Unfortunately, he's got to sacrifice his career.
I don't think he wins it if he doesn't play this weekend. Like, I don't think he doesn't play Saturday and then they beat Syracuse and he plays Final Four and championship. I think he has to play in the quarters to get it.
See, I feel like that's such a big story. I actually almost think the opposite of that. I actually feel like if he doesn't play the first round and doesn't play the quarters, and then he comes in for one weekend and is just like, straight up gladiator mode,
but
lights it up.
That gives me like the UVA Millen Brothers effect that we just talked about last week, where everyone just went crazy on 3 days.
But they will. That's part of it. Like you're talking about a guy that like he tore his hamstring. He came back just to compete in the national championship. We saw Dylan Malloy 2016 try to win with the torn ACL. This guy comes in with the torn hamstring, has 10 points on the weekend. Like, and then everyone will be like, well, what could he have done earlier in the rounds? No one's going to look at the stats. They're going to look at the storyline. Right. I kind of agree with Kev here.
Yeah.
He's almost Kev, I'm on the same.
The worst case scenario would be him playing this weekend, but being like a decoy and having no points.
Yeah, Kev. I was about to say those exact words. I was like, the best thing he could do for his team is play. The best thing for Tewaaraton is sit it out.
We'll find out, obviously, this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Massively packed weekend for all lacrosse fans as we dive into some PLO later this episode. But now let's hear a word from our sponsor, Duke Cannon. Duke Cannon makes high-quality grooming goods that keep you dialed in. At work, at the gym, at the field, whether you're grinding through the day or running to your late-night lacrosse league, their products are built to keep up. Use code PLL2026 at DukeCannon.com for 15% off your order. Or find Duke Cannon grooming goods at Target, Walmart, or even on Amazon. And now we welcome North Carolina's record holder for the most goals in a season, a 2025 national champion. She's won 2 gold medals with Team USA last summer, a Tewaaraton as a freshman. Give it up for Chloe Humphrey. Thank you. Chloe.
Thank you.
How are we feeling this season? Obviously, Made Madness is underway and coming off a big win against Clemson.
Yeah, we're feeling great. I think that from the start of the season to now, we've made so much progress on and off the field as a team. So we've got our eyes on the prize, and we're just taking it one game at a time.
Love that. Your episode with Through X drops Thursday. What was it like filming that, knowing the history of players that have done it before you?
I mean, that was incredible, only because I'm such a lax rat, so I've watched probably every episode of Through X in my past, and it's been a lot of like male players that I've also looked up to and watched their games. So to be, one of I think it was just Izzy Skane who did one for the women's side. So to be a part of it, it's such an honor, and I'm really pumped to see how it turns out.
How does it feel that around 2 weeks ago, you announced something just transforming the lacrosse community with the Mitchell x Chloe lacrosse experience.
I mean, that's like a huge headline. I've gotten so many DMs that everyone's excited to attend. We've got a great staff. It's going to be a good time. So
I'm super
that
excited.
was definitely
You
the
guys
highlight,
can,
one of the highlights of my season.
We're looking forward to it. Almost sold out camp for all you women out there that want to get after it. June 26th, Del Barton. But Chloe, I was obviously with you and the team this fall. Kind of bring us in through the facilities, and ultimately I think the thing that I'm most interested in is where you play wall ball. That's a spot that's like wholesome to you and your game. We obviously see it on social media. What's that place like for you?
I mean, it is just like my safe place, honestly. I think before and after practice, you can probably find me on that wall. And it's just been, I mean, it's painted by Taylor Moreno, an ex-player, and We Get To is such a staple of our team, you know, because whether you're injured or, you know, you never know what happens. Like, we get to show up every day healthy and play the sport that we love so much. So that little saying resonates with me a lot as well. So it's nice that I get to, you know, do my wall ball there and constantly be reminded how lucky I am to be healthy and on the field.
Yeah, Chloe, the women's game is booming, both college and youth, and now we got the WLL, the rise of that. The WLL kicks off outdoors this weekend for the first time ever. I know it's obviously a dream of yours to one day play in the WLL. Both your sisters are on the Maryland Charm. How excited are you to kind of watch them play this weekend? And then once you're done at North Carolina, how excited are you to play in the WLL yourself?
Oh my God, I am so pumped. I think the league has been so awesome the way that it's been, you know, just put together. And, you know, my sisters now are both a part of it, which is insane. My sister, at least Nicole, thought that she was hanging up the cleats. So to be able to have another opportunity to play the sport alongside my sister is such an incredible opportunity. I know they're both very grateful for that. I'm really excited because I'm going to catch this. I think it's their second game. It's the weekend after the Tewaaraton, so I'll be headed up. I believe it's in Maryland or Philadelphia, one of those locations. So I'll be watching it live, and I'm so excited because hopefully one day I'll be on that field, hopefully alongside them.
Yeah, and there's also lots of different formats of women's lacrosse. We saw the sixes obviously booming with the WL starting in the inaugural season last year, the Olympics and coming up in 2028. The field women's games a little different than the WLL women's outdoor games. What's your favorite format of women's lacrosse to play?
Ooh, I would say they both have their pros and cons, I think. Obviously, the sixes, for me, a challenge is defense. Like, gosh, I've got to learn how to play defense against the best players in the country, so that's definitely been a challenge for me. But in terms of like how fast-paced it is, it's been incredible to be a part of. And honestly, I think like a lot of the attackers are in the same boat on the defensive side, so we've all just kind of, you know, used our natural athleticism to figure it out. And you know, the information that our middies and our defenders are giving us alongside us, that's been very beneficial for us. But I like the college game. I think it's fun to watch. Obviously there are some rule changes that have slowed the game down a little bit, I think, but I would say the college game is probably my favorite. But I do love how fast-paced sixes is, and it's really just exciting to watch.
Yeah, and you guys, too, burst onto the scene, all three of you guys, the sisters, after winning the national championship last year. I know that's where kind of everything started coming together. Everyone knew who the Humphrey sisters were, and you guys are now like that next great family in the lacrosse world. You're the youngest of the sisters, right? And I know when you're the youngest of the bunch, you always look up to your older sisters, especially growing up. What's one piece of your game that you've taken from each sister that you use today?
Oh my gosh. I mean, they taught me everything I know, honestly, from how to cradle, how to pick up a ground ball. I would say Ashley definitely taught me the stick work aspect of lacrosse and how important it is to have a good stick, and how, you know, having both hands is crucial as an attacker. And I think Nicole showed me discipline, hard work. She was obviously the midfielder, so she was a very gritty midfielder. And she taught me, you know, just put your head down and work hard. And Ashley was kind of doing the more fun tricks in the backyard. So I kind of got like the glimpse into both sides as a midfielder and attacker. And, you know, seeing the stick tricks and everything, I kind of levitated towards the attacker side. But it's been like incredible to learn from the both of them and just pick up pieces from both of their games.
Chloe, this season's got to feel a lot different not having your sisters there with you on this run. I'm curious, tell us 2 players on your team who you've either adopted as younger sisters or looked up to you and see you as a big sister. I know you're all one big family, but I'm curious if you could single a couple out.
Totally. I think this UNC team is still young, including myself. I think Caroline Godin is an incredible veteran. She's been a starter for 4 years now, so that's someone that I'll probably look up to on the field. A little bit in Ashley's position, just telling people where to go, being that quarterback on offense. And then I think Addison Patillo, obviously, like we're both sophomores, and so I've like kind of been able to share my experiences with her, and she's telling me what she's seeing constantly. So I think that we've definitely connected on the field, and it feels like a sisterly connection, which is really special.
I got to see a little bit of your Through X cut behind the scenes. They obviously promoted some of it during the Virginia Georgetown game. Did you catch that, by the way? Did you see the little
That's
promo
what
for
I
it?
heard.
Yeah.
I actually wasn't watching that game, but my friend FaceTimed me and was like, "You're on TV," and I was like, "What? Like for what?" And she said, because I didn't know that they were showing a glimpse into the Through X, and she said it looked great, and then I looked back at it and it looked awesome. So I haven't even seen it. I'm so excited to see how incredibly put together it is, but I guess everyone seemed to like the little wall ball clip, which is great.
Well, Final Cut comes out on Thursday on YouTube. But one part that really stuck out to me was a little note you dropped about your mileage trackers. And you said you had more miles run per practice than even all the midfielders. What are you doing to run around so much?
It's a lot of off-ball movement. When I came in as a freshman, I remember my trainer approached me at practice and was like, "Give me your GPS." And I was like, "Why?" And he said, "It's broken." And I said, "What?" Okay. So I handed him my GPS. And then the next day he was like, "It's not broken. Like, you're just running a crazy amount." And I was like, that's what I thought. Like, I didn't think I was like doing anything crazy or my numbers were crazy, because for me that was just like a normal practice. But I guess the coaches had never seen anything like that. The staff had never seen anything like that. And I didn't even realize how much I move off ball. Like, you don't have to tell me to move just because I automatically am constantly moving and reading defenders. So that's definitely nice to just have that natural instinct. But my mileage is always the highest in any game or practice as an attacker, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, Chloe, I'm interested then. If you could describe your play style in one word, what would it be?
Ooh, I would say versatile. I think just because of the two-handedness, and I like to think that I can, dodge from high and low. Or maybe unpredictable, because sometimes I don't even know what I'm doing on the field, and then the ball goes in the net and I'm like, woo, I don't know what just happened. And it's
That's
stuff that
sick.
sometimes it's stuff that I haven't practiced in the backyard that I just whip out and I'm like, I've never seen that before. And Marie and I will always laugh, because I'll do some crazy shot and be like, I didn't even know I had that in my toolbox. Like, who knows? So it's just stuff like that. It just makes the game so much fun, and I think that just comes from all the practice and the reps in the backyard, just to have those instincts.
Yeah, I remember watching you last year with my girlfriend who played club lacrosse. And she's like, "Wait, this girl is sick." And then she's like, "Do you think she planned that?" I was like, "I don't know. Sometimes these girls and guys are so talented. I'm just I think they just throw their shit against the wall and see what works." And to hear you say it honestly, that you don't sometimes know what you're doing, I love that.
Yeah.
I have to ask you then, when you're talking about players that you look up to on the UNC roster, who would be on your Mount Rushmore for women's lacrosse players in general?
Ooh. UNC or just anyone?
In general, just all women's lacrosse players.
Okay. My
Best
top has to be
ever,
Kayla Trainer.
Okay.
Yes. So number one is Kayla Trainer. I remember Ashley and I would sit and watch her highlights for probably hours at a time. So we definitely try to emulate our game after Kayla Trainer, and it was the way that her stick moved, her stick work. She was the most two-handed player in college lacrosse at that point, and so we really just were so inspired by her, and it's awesome I get the opportunity to be coached by her on the U.S. team, which is a dream come true as well. I would say Marie McCool was my UNC idol. Obviously, get to be coached by her as well in college and get to play alongside her, which is just a whole Like, if you told me that when I was little, I would be blown away that I get the opportunity to play with her. And then Sam Apuzzo, Kenzie Ken, oh my gosh, they were the most fun duo to watch in college lacrosse. I remember just my eyes would light up anytime they played, even though I was a Tar Heel fan. I couldn't deny how impressed I was by them. So I would say that's
I love that.
good.
And then you were just talking about, which I found very interesting, that when you watched the Through X series, that you'd also watch men's players, even if it was just like a highlight video or someone on the men's side. Is there a favorite men's player that you had, or someone that like you tried to model your game after, or take bits and pieces?
Yeah, there are, I would say not specifically, but like Mikey Powell, love his creativity. It's so
Yeah.
awesome. I mean, he just took stick work to like a whole nother level. So that was really incredible to watch. And then there are players like Jeff T on the Canadian team who are teeter to that are so fun to watch. And I remember my old assistant coach Phil Barnes, who was recently on staff at UNC. He was like, watch this guy on sixes. And so when I was kind of like transitioning from college game to sixes and had no idea what was going on, he was like, watch him, like get a feel for the game, because that's someone who really dominates. And I think that helped a lot, just like learning how to play sixes.
Yeah, I think that's so cool. And then just speaking of the men's and women's lacrosse side, UNC, I mean, you guys are obviously competing for a national championship, trying to go back-to-back, win again. The men's team, they're back. They're trying to get back, actually, to the Final Four for the first time since 2021. Now, there's definitely an elephant in the room, even if it's unspoken of, that you guys could both win the national championship. One, have you guys talked about that, like even on the weekend, just being like, this would be pretty sick? And then two, follow-up, what would that week look like immediately after?
Oh my God. Absolutely. We've talked about it. You know, we're kind of like, we talk about it like, guys, like, you got to pick it up. Come on. Like, we did it. Your turn. So we've definitely had those conversations. And obviously, like, you just throw it out there. But to see how dominant they've been this season, like, it could potentially come true. And I think that they definitely do have the people that they need, and obviously the staff they need. So I think that they'll give it a good run, and hopefully we can do the same. That weekend, oh my God, I couldn't even imagine coming back from from Memorial Day weekend in Chapel Hill. It would be, because we have a bunch of like lacrosse houses on one street, so I could just envision those being filled for a few days.
Yeah, we had Don Petramala on a couple episodes ago. He's telling us about the whole setup, about like the picnics, the girls across the street, a couple guys like all over. Like he did a
Mitch,
great
I
job
watched the
painting
doc.
picture.
Don't worry.
Come on. Well, actually, Dukes, the last time it happened,
You got the full
2016.
map set up.
Yeah, well, I had to
Yeah,
show it off. But
run it back.
2016, the women's and men's won it at UNC, and then the next year, men's and women's won it at Maryland. So it would be cool to kind of repeat
What was
history
10
there.
years ago, Mitch?
Yes, it was. You're right. My bad. 2016. Yeah, that's on me. That's
Feels
on
like
me.
2016.
Yeah.
Chloe, you've been a UNC fan for long before you were there. There's a cool anecdote about your shaft and through X. I won't spoil it now, but how did you become a UNC fan growing up in Connecticut?
Ooh, I would say Keely Waters, who is a UNC lacrosse legend, was a goalie for UNC, and when I was kind of catching onto the lacrosse bug, she was in high school at that point, at Darien High School, committed to UNC. So in our town, she was like the talk of the town. She was like the best of the best. So obviously, like, I resonated the best of Darien with UNC, which was obviously the best program at that point. So then my sister committed, and I was probably in about like 5th grade at that point. And from then on, it was just UNC. Like, I would think about it every single day. My dad was like, you haven't even gotten to middle school yet. Like, what are you doing? But I just had my eyes so set on UNC. And I think my sister definitely sparked that, just committing there. And I was always like the little sister following the big pile of recruits around. And it just made me feel so a part of it. They were all so welcoming. And anytime like I heard Jenny Levy speak, my eyes would light up. Oh my gosh, my mom was like, I've never seen anything like this. Especially like when they came to my house during the recruiting period. So that definitely was just the sign that she needed to know I was going to be a Tar Heel.
It's interesting hearing you talk about that whole story and also throwing it back to Connecticut a little bit. one of the most viral posts TLN has ever posted was your game-sealing goal against BC last year, I think in the ACC championship, where you faked out Shea Dolce, ran around the net, and then scored. And Shea Dolce was a teammate of yours in high school, right?
Yes, she was.
Have you ever talked about that moment?
No, we have not. I don't really know what was going through my head at that point in time. I remember Jenny was just like, if you like see the goal, go. And I was like, okay, say less. Like, obviously as an attacker, I'm like, all right, we got the green light. So I get to the goal and I was faking and Shea was matching every single one of my fakes. Like, if you actually look at the breakdown, like, she is matching me high, she's matching me off stick side. I was like, oh my God, if I shoot this and get stuffed, I'm going to freak out. So then I kind of like went around, decided like I'm not going to shoot it. And then I was like, wait, like the net's open. I'm going to go for it. So there kind of was like a bunch of things going on in my head. I know the comments were definitely like, what is going on? Especially for people who didn't know what like the sport of lacrosse is about. A lot of people are confused. But yeah, Shea, I have so much respect for her as a goalie. She's the best, or one of, if not the best to do it. So it definitely was just like in the moment of the game. And, yeah, that was a funny highlight.
That's a good question to go off of really quick is if it's not Shea Dolce, who do you think the best goalie that you go up against is or you faced?
Ooh. I mean, I face Betty Nelson and Lexi Zank every single day at practice, who I think are just incredible goalies. So, yeah, not too bad. I mean, Taylor Moreno and Kaylee Waters on the U.S. team, I don't understand how they make some of the saves they do. It's really awesome just to be able to go up against them and challenge my shots every day. So I've definitely faced a fair share of incredible goalies that have definitely increased my shooting accuracy.
Well, that moment against Shea was one of the most viral posts, but you kind of have a knack for social media in general. I'm curious if you have any advice for my colleagues here, Mitchell Pehlke or anyone else on the show, how to gain a following and get engagement on social media?
I'm constantly still learning. I think social media is something that you learn something new every single day. For me, I'm just like trying to stay authentic and stay true to myself and not let, any trends that I don't feel comfortable with. Like, I don't let those take over my social media. I kind of just stay true to what I believe in and, again, like what feels authentic to me. So I'm really focusing on like building my image right now, not so much like sponsorships and stuff like that. Because I think that's honestly like how you can set yourself up well for the future. At least
Mitch, did you listen to that?
That's what I've been learning.
Yeah,
Mitch, taking notes.
I mean, you seem to have it down. So
No,
I love
Chloe,
that.
you don't. He's trying to get better at the TikTok game. He pointed the thumb. We have a big thing in this podcast. It's called
Yes.
Point the Thumb.
we got to get you dancing. A little
Get me
bit.
dancing.
So that was
You
my
need the
question
kitty
for
cat
you.
killer back, Mitch, from your dorm days at Ohio State.
I don't know about
Do you
that.
have do you have a trend? Do you have a trend that you could give Mitch that he can kind of maybe use? At
Yeah,
this
Chloe, what do you
podcast?
got for me? Give me some tips.
Oh God. I mean, recently the dances have been doing well, unfortunately. So
Jeez.
Get your
gotta
dancing
be
Get that
fine-
Buckeye
find a
jersey
teammate
off.
and-
Gosh, that would be. I think one thing that I realized, like being with you this fall on campus and hanging out with the team, is like you're kind of making it like cool to care again. Where I felt like back in the day, like if you cared about lacrosse, you were like, well, like this guy's a hardo. But like the fact that you're like honestly a lax rat and you're like proud to be a lax rat and you're not shying away from that is like very interesting. Does that just come from like your love of the game? Or where did you learn all that?
Absolutely, and especially from a town like Darien, while it is like an incredible lacrosse town, and it's kind of like you're born with a lacrosse stick. It is if you try too hard, you're hardo, and people would definitely be chirping and stuff like that. So I definitely faced that in high school, and it kind of made me feel smaller, just because like I couldn't express how much I love the sport and how much effort and energy I actually put into it. So I think social media has really opened up the gates for that, and just to show like this is what it takes to get to the college level or to get to this D1 level. And I think like also the opportunities that lacrosse has created for me. Like I have had the most incredible experiences from the Tewaaraton to going to the ESPYs to being with US or Ralph Lauren at the US Open. So it's just like I just feel like there's so much that the sport is giving me that like I need to give back to the sport, and that's kind of like how I view it. It's just given me so much, and I'm just happy to give back as much as I can to the game and the viewers and the little girls.
Yeah, going off that, Chloe, you do such a good job of showcasing both who you are as a lacrosse player, but also off the field too in some of your stuff on social media. I know a lot of times social media is hard to get into because a lot of people might be nervous of, oh, what are people going to think? What are people going to say? Are they going to make fun of me? Blah, blah, blah. What's some advice you have for like all the young girls in the next generation coming up on like how to, block all that out and grow your brand on social media? Because I think that's such a big thing nowadays in college athletics is showing your personal brand and who you are on and off the field. So what would your word of advice be to that next generation of girls?
Absolutely. I would say rip the Band-Aid off and just, post it. Like, go for it. Obviously, the first one is the most uncomfortable one because you're kind of, like, putting yourself out there, testing the waters and seeing if it catches or not. And sometimes it's not. Like, half the content that I put out there doesn't do as well as I'd hope it would. Like, sometimes you have such a great idea and you post it and it flops. So you're like, what the heck? So just keep staying consistent with it. Like, I try to tell myself, like, don't give up. Just keep sharing content, seeing what aspects of your life people like to see and what they want to see more of. And it's constantly, like I was saying, you're learning every single day just about like the algorithm and what you bring to the table. So I think just go for it. That's like my biggest thing on social media. Just press the post button and who cares? Like at the end of the day, as long as you're staying authentic to yourself, like that's the only thing that matters.
Yeah, and also you guys are in the middle, switching gears a little bit, in the middle of an NCAA tournament run. You're trying to go back-to-back. You guys lost one game this year. It was to Northwestern at home. The championship weekend this year is in Chicago at Northwestern. So there's a possibility you guys could play Northwestern in the national championship to avenge that loss. That venue, seeing it at the PLL, looks like one of the most special settings in lacrosse. Dukes, I know you've been there. I got to get there one day. How special would it be to take on Northwestern on their home field and win a national championship in front of their fans at that venue?
I mean, it would be incredible just to hoist that national championship trophy. I think, obviously, having the tournament in Chicago, we're focusing on ourselves. We're not focusing on where the venue is or who we're playing or what the uniform across the field says on their chest. We're really just focusing on ourselves, each other, and taking it, again, one game at a time. And I think, that's really motivating for us is just sticking with our game plan, and if we face Northwestern again, we'll be ready for it, and we're super pumped to see what the rest of the season has in store.
I got one last one for you, Chloe. We have a big debate on this podcast. You're from Connecticut, so I think we'll take Connecticut out of the equation. What's the hotbed for lacrosse?
Ooh, I would say Maryland. I think.
Wow.
When I was a kid. When I was probably in like 5th grade, like it was all Maryland. Oh my gosh, I remember like anytime we'd see a Maryland team on our schedule, we would just be like shoot, like we really got to step it up because we were just like these Connecticut girls. We were always like the underdog team playing M&D Black. We'd always see that on our schedule and be like, all right, it's gonna be a long tournament in like New Egypt, New Jersey. Those were the longest days. So shout out to all the parents who take their children to that venue. So I would say Maryland, Long Island were the top two, but from then on, I think Connecticut could be just as in the conversation as Maryland and Long Island. We have some Philadelphia, and it just like continues to grow, and it like has amazed me how quickly it's grown and how many more hotbeds we're seeing. Like we're seeing Colorado becoming a hotbed. I know a bunch of our top players are from Colorado, and it's incredible just to see it growing all over the place, and hopefully it can keep going. So it's really fun to see.
Chloe, we got one more before you bounce. We always do ball knower. Ball knower essentially is somebody comes on, asks us a question, think trivia lacrosse. If you get this right, you can be on the standings for us. Paul Carcatera has won it. He's on here as well. But Alex Poole, please come off mute and show yourself for the fans as always.
What's up, everybody? Chloe, I'm glad to hear that you've also had some social media posts that have flopped, as have I. I'm glad to know that you're at least a little bit human versus alien that's amazing at lacrosse and everything else. Weird to hear you not say North Carolina as a hotbed, being the resident North Carolinian here. Take severe offense to that. However, I do have a ball knower question that is catered just for you around
Pacheco.
the great Rachel Pacheco. Shout out to the defensive Tewaaraton. Maybe we'll see it again. Sean Light, stay tuned for the episode. For this one, the question is, in Darien
Yeah.
High School, either the boys or the girls program, who is the all-time career points leader?
Case Mathias.
Wow. Bingo.
Wow.
Bingo.
Chloe.
Wow, that was really impressive.
Bingo.
Duke's doing his victory
Just
lap.
walked off.
Bingo.
That's crazy.
Boys and girls, I was cooked.
Wow.
Do
He
we have
might lead the country.
Case
In high school.
Mathias?
No, it's Zed, I thought. for the-
Zed,
Yeah, it is
That
Zed, yeah.
he was. Those
Yeah.
are some Darien legends.
Wait, Chloe, are you the all-time girls leader? Who is it?
I only played one full healthy season.
I have it. It's Caroline Spillane. She has 292 career points.
Wow.
Okay. I think
Case
that's-
Mathias has 355, which is
That's a lot.
honestly ridiculous.
Yeah, his highlight tape was the coolest thing, Mitch. You should watch it later.
Check it out.
Yeah, we
Chloe,
must
have you
Take some notes.
Have you seen the Case Mathias highlight tape, Chloe?
Yes. Everyone in Darien has. Oh my god. It's
Give
like,
us the rundown. Is it like lore?
I mean, yeah. Oh yeah. It's just like insane. I mean, especially from a high schooler. Like, I remember we were in like middle school watching it, being like, oh my god, like this kid's sick. So, I should probably circle back on that. Take some notes.
I'm not just if we're on the topic of Case Mathias' highlight tape really quick. Like that changed my perspective on lacrosse. Like that's
Life-changing,
It really, I was
honestly.
like, that's I can't even pray to be that good. So that's how I knew the answer.
Well, Chloe, if you didn't know, Dukes was actually a 4-time All-American playing club lacrosse at Dayton in Ohio. So feel free if you want to give him any tips. He might be a special guest coaching at the Chloe X Mitchell Lacrosse Experience Camp. Chloe
Awesome.
Humphrey, we appreciate you coming
Awesome.
on. You're a legend. Thank you.
Chloe.
Thanks, Chloe.
Thanks, guys.
All right, now let's talk some PLL ball. Opening weekend was awesome. In Game 1, Dylan Ward led the California Redwoods to a win over the Archers by making 12 saves. The Woods traded a 2027 third-round pick for him before the draft. Dukes, did Trader Joe get it right?
Yeah, it did. It seems like it, right? I mean, I think obviously we talked about when this trade actually happened. I think it's a win now play. I don't know. You're not looking at Wardo as your long-term plan, but it was a trade that's low risk, high reward. I know it's a 2027 pick, but I can't imagine that there's going to be so many of these third rounders in the 2027 draft that are either going to make a roster right away or be a win now piece immediately. I think Wardo is a beast. You got one of the best goalies of all time, period. You want to win a championship? Joe Spillane wants to win a championship? You just got the big-time player goalie. He's won a gold medal. He's won in box. He's won on the field in both leagues, in the MLL and the PLL. Pound for pound for me, Dylan Ward's the best big-time goalie of all time, in my opinion. There's not one other goalie that I'd want. So, yeah, I think that it paid off. I know it's week 1. It might be overreactions. Time will tell. But, again, low risk, high reward.
What if we have a potential 9,000 IQ move here by Joe Spillane? I was critical. I've brought up to Kark. I was like, I would not be giving up 2027 picks with that draft class that's coming up. What if Joe Spillane is looking at that 5-and-5 rule? And he's looking at that draft class and be like, maybe those guys won't be there. Maybe those guys will be back in college for an extra year. Maybe that was
you
just
have
like
this written down in your secret notes because that's like the best thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Clip that. Chat, clip it.
Yeah, that's
So
elite.
Owen Duffy 2028 draft now.
Yeah,
I had a little
no,
conversation
please.
with Professor Keegs before the show.
I did love that trade. early.
Good teacher.
I love the Ward trade when it happened. I thought it was a great pick. I know you're giving up a third-round pick, but to me, Kev, you said you talked to Sudan in the elevator. You asked him a little bit about that Plunkett trade. I know they're going all in now, but what did he say to you, Kev? Something about like third or fourth round picks.
He was just thinking like with the new kind of format with the league up a couple of weeks, like you're not getting your rookies or some of those rookies until after they make their playoff runs. So For example, let's use the Water Dogs and Kyle Lewis, midfielder, who is probably going to go on a run all the way to the national championship with D2 Adelphi. He's going to get there after a month of the season. And at that point, do you save the roster spot for a Kyle Lewis, or is it kind of like, I'm going to roll with my guys who have kind of been here since week one? So I don't know if there's an overall devaluing of the late round picks. I definitely maybe got a little bit of that impression from that conversation, but no, we'll see. I think that Joe Spallina might have that in mind.
100%. I think goalie was that one spot. If you looked at the Redwoods in the offseason, where is the clear area that they can upgrade? It was the goalie position. I think bringing in a veteran who's done at the highest level in Dylan Ward was the right move. I think he played well in week one. As Duke said, time will tell. You don't want to overreact until week 3, week 4, until these teams, really form themselves once everyone's on the roster. But to me, I like that move coming in. I think it was a good move. It paid off in week one. And getting a lot of good guys. Coach Kelly building this roster. We're talking about Joe Spallina building the Long Island guys, getting all those cats in there. How about Coach Kelly bringing some Ohio flair, getting Mikey Boehm, a Cleveland guy, up? He went off in his game, proving he wants a spot on the 19. I mean, it's a family atmosphere over for this Woods team.
See what number he wears?
What's he got, 91?
91.
Yeah.
91 Redwoods.
Yeah.
Hoagie, the squad's rolling, baby. Those are your boys. But on the other
Woods,
side,
baby.
a team that I picked, stay tuned, coming to September 18th, the Atlas took care of business against the Carolina Chaos on Friday night, 16-12. Brian Costabile set a career high in goals with 5, including a 2-pointer. Hoagie, what was so effective for them?
Yeah, I think Brian Costabile is playing the best lacrosse of his career right now. I thought he had his best season as a pro last year. He was huge down the second half of the year, and he's picked up right where he left off this year. Obviously, re-signed that contract in the offseason to stay with the Atlas for the near future, so they got him locked up moving forward. But I think the one thing I love about Brian Costabile's game is he does a really good job of not settling for shots and kind of dodging and moving to increase his angle. I think he did a great job early in this game. He showed off his range with that 2-point shot on the man up. Then he did a great job, attacking short sticks when Matt Trainer was drawing a pole, taking advantage of that matchup. But then when he did have a pole on him, I think he did a great job. He's got that patented hitch and go. He's able to get inside. It's super effective. And I think consistently his ability to really create better shooting angles, get more space, and cleaner looks on offense as a midfielder. He's done that, I thought, throughout his career. But if you watch him play, Mitch, he's always, going. He's not taking that first shot. He'll take an extra step or two. He'll take that extra hitch, increase his angle. He does a great job at that. If you watch him and you're a young midfielder, watch Brian Costabile's highlights from this Chaos game this weekend. He was doing it in so many different ways. One of the best midfielders in the world.
One of the best in the world. We'll continue to see him play. Another guy in the Atlas, though, that had a big game was Dr. Slim Reaper, baby. Xander Dixon was awesome to see him back on the field after his crazy injury in the past championship. He had a hat trick, typical Xander fashion. Speaking of crease attackmen, Dr. Kevin, your boy Jake Taylor got the start at attack.
Yes,
in
he
the
did.
Redwoods in the Water Dogs win. He scored a goal and an assist. Do you still think he should start at attack for them this season when CJ Kurse returns?
Okay, so we're doing this again. Hey, why not? Let's just run it back. Let's just run it back, the same run of show from last year. But look, I would set up Jake Taylor as trade bait at this point. We saw where he kind of stands in the pecking order. We saw how loaded that Water Dogs offense is. And I do think CJ Kurse should play attack when he comes back. My argument last year was not that Jake Taylor was better than CJ Kurse and therefore should be starting at attack. My argument was that the Water Dogs were getting nothing out of their midfield. That's not the case. Jack Hanna, Connor Kelly, Thomas McConvey, and Zed Williams, who hit a 2-pointer, all balled out, played well, scored points. They got Matt Collison coming. I think when you look at the attack, here's how I'd set it up. Me personally, I don't know what Bill Tierney's going to do. Michael Sowers and CJ Kurse, they're your locks. Kieran McCardle, we saw he can still ball at 33 years old, but Silas Richmond, you just drafted him with the 5th overall pick. He's got to be your third attackman of the future. Again, he's a Canadian guy. He's got to get the visa. He'll be here a little delayed, but I would run Sowers, Kurse, and Taylor until the trade deadline, or at least until I get a juicy trade offer, because you're going to have to, mix up that line at some point and get Silas Richmond in there. And I'd run Kieran McCardle through the box until then. And then once you moved Jake Taylor, you find out maybe you need something else on that, maybe a face-off guy. Or I know Connor Farrell played great, but, find something else maybe you need. Then I would figure that out, and I would keep Kieran McCardle around, either have him in the lineup or go with Silas if he's not quite ready to start an attack. And I would move Jake Taylor. So, yeah, I would trade Jake Taylor to a team that would actually need him.
Interesting. Okay. After losing on Friday, the Archers got the win column at home against the Outlaws on Sunday. Dukes, who stood out for you in that win?
Dude, for anyone watching Love on the Spectrum, he's just sounded like the guy. If you see him on Instagram, it's like, interesting. I was just dying.
That's crazy.
You literally sounded
That's
like the
crazy.
That's criminal.
That's crazy.
That's criminal.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I hope someone could stitch it. It's so funny. I gotta stitch that in.
That's crazy.
What did you even ask? I was so distracted.
I was talking about the Archers, baby. They're in the win column
yeah.
at home against the Outlaws on Sunday. Who stood out for you in that win?
Bo Pedersen. We're talking about this rope unit. We're going to talk about this rope unit, the short stick D middies for the Archers, I think all season long. Bo Pedersen, 1 goal, 1 assist, 3 ground balls, 1 caused turnover. Locked down Bernhard and O'Neill on consecutive possessions in the final 5 minutes of the game. Utah's not getting a ton of offense, right? Like, they scored 15 goals in their homecoming this weekend. I think that personally, when we watch this Utah Archers team going forward, I think it's going to be a team that a lot of people pick to finish in the bottom of the league. I think this could be a team like the Chaos a couple of years ago that's going to rely heavily on their defense. Mitchell Dunham, right? Is it Dunham or Durham?
Dunham.
Dunham. I think he had 5 caused turnovers in the second game this weekend. He looked awesome. Brendan Laval, he basically shut down Brendan O'Neill. I think when he was the closest defender, Brendan O'Neill was 0 for 6 in shooting. So you're getting Brett Dobson back. The Georgia Swarm lost, so you're getting him back. I think that it's going to be a very, very good defensive team. And what Aiden McGuire is going to be able to bring to this offense and defense next to Bo Pedersen, these are 2 guys that could play offensive midfield that happen to be all-world short stick D middies. I'm excited to see what the makeup of this Archers team looks like. I know it's going to be different. I know that Bates said that everyone's going to be kind of running like in the box. Attacks are going to be coming out, playing midfield. It's going to be a fluid offense. I'm excited for this defense, though, in general. What Laval showed me this weekend on the defensive end should be an exciting summer for the Archers, defensively at least. And I think it's going to have a very true identity like the Chaos a couple years ago.
And time will tell. Obviously, Bo Pedersen's been great for the last couple of years. Aiden McGuire, unbelievable deep mid. My takeaway really watching the Archers in those 2 games was I would have went offense instead of taking Aiden McGuire at number 1 overall. I don't think they needed Aiden McGuire as much as they need a really good offensive player. I think that could be a position that they're lacking of the rest of the year, even when they get their guys back from injury. I know Aiden McGuire is great. I know the defense is going to be even better when he's on the field. But to me, the first thing that caught my eye, especially watching the Redwoods game, was they could have used a Joey Splina, a generational type offensive player on that team. They don't really need the McGuire thing. It's great to have him. It's great to have more riches and more depth. But looking back on it, will they have regretted not taking an offensive guy? That'll be an interesting point to look back on.
Hey, Aiden McGuire had 2 goals this weekend.
How
2
many
empty
did Joey
netters. How many goals
How
did
many
Joey
did
have?
Did Joey have 2?
Yeah,
I think he had 2 or 3. He had 4
Tough
points.
to tell. Look, that's
to
the
tell.
stats, Hoax. Yeah.
Who made the
Oh,
right
hey.
pick?
Yeah, the last point of like the Archers, I think the elephant in the room is obviously this is not the final roster for who they are. They have injuries
100%.
like Matt Moore has come back from injury,
Schreiber.
Grant Ament coming back from injury. You're going to get players back. Shout out Ryan Steins, the Utah kid. I love seeing him score his first pro goal and then
Cavs
him
Rookie of the
celebrating
Year.
with his teammates. Yeah, that was awesome. I know that Kev kind of hit on that last week. That was an awesome seeing him celebrate with his Utah teammates. And again, I wanted to shout out really quick. I forget who tweeted about it, but there's some MCLA lacrosse player that was crying after losing his game.
I saw that.
And it kind of got some like wave on social media. I think we talked about it a little bit in our interview with Chloe, but like people care. Like it's cool to care.
Cool to care.
It's cool to do this podcast once a week. Yeah, we do it because we care. I think that like seeing Ryan Steins and his friends care after the game, it's cool. Like playing pro lacrosse means a lot to Ryan Stein, so I think that was a really cool moment.
I love that.
I agree.
Obviously, cool to care, especially this weekend coming up. We got the little lacrosse vortex coming in. We have the men's quarterfinal games on Saturday and Sunday. Then we have the women's on Thursday as well. And then the PLL hits week 2 up in Rhode Island along with the WLL's opening weekend and the NLL finals, baby. And to finish out a little quarter 3 action, we have fantasy standings. As you guys know, last episode, we picked the punishment for our fantasy league, which you guys can join at the top of this description, is the one chip challenge, the hottest singular chip that one of us will have to eat. Stay tuned to that for the end of the PLL season. But your boy, I'm going to share my screen real quick. Your boy is in the lead right now, baby. 155 points. One more than Hoagie, I might add. And I'm still hanging around, just having a couple 11 chips left over because I do it like that. I save. TJ Malone, bang. Shelley, bang. Jack Hanna, bang. Fellow Buckeye, Justin Anasio, then DeLuca. I mean, the people that I scored, the people that I picked showed out for your boy. I just want to put out on record, some of the people on the show might have used AI to help them pick their lineup. Not me. Not me. I'm right off the dome with it. Dukes, you're in last place right now. Are you nervous?
No, I don't care about eating a chip that's hot.
Hoagie, this guy's got no
sandwich
idea.
boy down there.
I'm not
Hoagie.
gonna lie, Mitch. When we released the clip, I think he put it out on socials, like talking about the punishment. I went back and watched that video just for the memories. I still remember that night, dude. That was an unbelievable experience, dude. That was part of our era where in January at Ohio State we did dry January, so you couldn't go out until after our first regular season game once we got back from winter break. Yep. So on the Saturday nights we couldn't go out, so we would do go get dinner with your roommates or whatever. And that whole senior year, Mitch has got some new challenge for us every week. One week it's chicken nuggets. Then he's like, guys, we're doing the one chip challenge this weekend. I remember Garrett Mitch being like, I'm never doing this again. Remember he was like,
it was so bad in Dukes. I can't wait. I think you'd be great for it. You or Kev. Hoagie and I already did our reps, and we'll leave it up to you guys. I'm trying heinously hard in PLL Fantasy.
It was perfect timing. I know I love the PLL Fantasy this week, too,
Yeah.
like chopping it up. When Connor Fields, I picked him game 1, had -2 points for me. Again, the boys chirping me out. I was getting a little nervous then. But I was watching some Barstool video last week. Shout out Barstool, my old workplace. And they were doing some challenge, and they involved the one chip challenge, and they took it down like champs. And all I could think of was James Hogan crying like a baby back bitch about potentially having to do this as this kid stood there for 5 minutes and no water. Hoax, I know I'm down, but I'm not out. I'm coming for you, okay?
we got a long season, so there's a lot to go. Nobody's out. Nobody's in the lead. I will say, though, Mitch, if it is Dukes at the end who has to do it, he was the one who wanted it. So we'll see how it goes.
God's got a plan.
I will say, though, we were all talking Kev, Dukes, and I all weekend talking about our lineups. Everyone's like, this guy's going off. This guy's, Dukes is talking about Fields doing nothing for him on Friday and then balling out Saturday. Mitch didn't even join our league, so we didn't even know what he was in. He was on his own single player, so we didn't know what was going on all weekend with his fantasy team. All of a sudden, he pops in now with the lead. So we gotta, we gotta have some.
Hoax, I'm glad we're on the same team now. There's a good Michael Jordan line. It's way easier to talk shit when you're ahead. I wanted you to talk shit when the score is even. Mitch was nowhere to be seen before when the score was all tied up at 0. And now that he's up, he's running his little mouth over there. Now that he's like, oh, no, I don't have to do the chip right now. I'll see you in September, buddy, all right?
Honestly, what we should do is we should bring the one chip challenge to on site, like where Hoagie and I did the shoeies last year. And for the last 20 minutes, you're just eating the chip and having to answer our questions. It's the Mitchell Pehlke Lacrosse Show version of Hot Ones, basically.
Yeah, the champs are just on the set for the interviews. What's up with that guy?
Never forget when Mitch last year Uber Eats the hot wings while Dukes was hungover on set in New York City.
That was elite. That was elite.
Yeah, it actually, looking back at that one, that actually kind of cured my hangover because those wings just were not that hot, and it just helped me.
We'll see. One chip. Stay tuned.
This is why
September,
I don't trust you guys.
baby. You'll see. You'll see how one the hot chip is.
Oh yeah. No,
all I
you'll
can say
you'll
is
see.
just wait.
You'll see.
Just wait.
You'll see. Just wait. You'll see.
Duke Cannon, work harder, smell better. The moment of the week. We got a little D2 ball. MCLA D2 ball, that is. Grand Valley State won the D2 MCLA National Championship game in probably the weirdest fashion. St. Thomas, fellow friends of the program. Dukes, break this one down for us.
Yeah, Grand Valley State, they win the MCLA D2 National Championship. The division that I was in, St. Thomas, the Tommies. Fuck the Tommies. What a joke. Throw it back to the goalie. Own goal to lose in overtime of the D2 MCOA National Championship. The Tommies are a joke. I was gloating. Sent this to the boys. I was like, this has got to be the Duke Cannon Player of the Week. Unbelievable. Like, the boys in the Dayton group chat were howling, seeing the way that they lost. I have no remorse for St. Thomas. I have no remorse for that player. It's always fuck the Tommies.
What were the
Why do you hate
St.
them so
Thomas
much? Yeah,
games
talk to
looking
us.
like back when you were at Dayton Dukes? What were those matchups looking like?
They were actually St. Thomas. I mean, again, MCLA lacrosse. It's not like it's not the best version of lacrosse. No one's ever claimed it to be. But these boys were athletic. They would all play D3 football in the off season, practice 6 days a week, so they could run like horses. And we would talk shit to each other. Them and Minnesota Duluth were probably the two best teams that I played back in the day. So, yeah, it was always fuck the Tommies. That was like a day one thing that you learned when playing Dayton lacrosse. Always fuck the Tommies.
Mitch, we getting a vlog at Dayton Lacrosse soon? Behind the
I think they're
scenes
actually
action?
one of the teams that had to like close their program, right? Was that one of them?
I do think something weird happened for a little bit, but no. Well, they don't close schools for national champions. I don't know what they're doing at Ohio State. Fucking building statues for round one,
This
losing by
guy.
10 to Notre Dame.
This guy. Hey, lacrosse fans, it's our Super Bowl again this next weekend. Vortex, NLL, WLL, PLL, men's and women's college. Hope you guys tune in. Kev,
Vortex?
this off with a.
Did you just call it a vortex?
Vortex.
Is that what it's
Dude,
called? A vortex?
Equinox.
Chloe Humphrey. Yeah, Chloe Humphrey's got to help you
Equinox.
out. She's on the TikTok. I'll help you out with the Twitter slang. Like, this is embarrassing.
Equinox.
Man.
Gosh,
thinking
I
it's like the
love it.
Bud
Hey,
Light Vortex.
the
but
one
AP
chip.
has appeared. AP has appeared.
AP, send the fans home with a fun fact. What do you got?
ball nowhere, dude.
Brother. Keep this in. K-Stu, keep it in. And I want the fans at home.
Not been a great episode for
Of
the Italian.
MPLS.
I'll point the thumb.
Look,
Point the
Mitchell did
finger.
follow me back on Twitter for months on end. He does not want me to come on camera. He is trying his very best to silence me, and I will not be silenced. I am here with a
Can
ball
you
knower
please take
question.
the hat off and then give us ball knower?
Fresh wax.
Oh, yeah. Look at
Shiny,
that.
looking good. I
Ball
love
of
it.
nowhere.
All right. Bald knower. That's a good one.
That's awesome.
Okay. You guys ready for
Well,
this
do we know
one?
the standings at all or no? Because I'm pretty sure.
I just got a
Yep.
point.
So we have Dr. Kevin is in first. He has 3, and he's the recent winner.
But
Don't I
what's
have
Duke's
three now?
at? That's not counting his point that he just got against Chloe.
Oh, so well then it would be a 3-way tie for second.
Okay.
Everybody has 2.
Wait, I have
with
3.
that. I'm seeing 2, brother.
Because I got the first 2 of the year. I know that for a fact.
All right, if we're wrong, case do fact check.
Edited in post.
Interns fact checked. For now, are you guys ready? Because I also have
Yeah.
a twofer. So,
Ooh,
dude,
he's got
I'm ready.
2?
This is going to be 2. It's going to be 2 separate ones.
Paul Vrabel.
Bingo. Answer Corey Littman. Bingo. Okay.
Yeah. Bingo.
All right, you guys ready?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Dominic Petramala broke the single game tournament goals record this weekend with 10. Who was the most recent player to hit 10? Or to hit 9?
Chris
Lyle
Cloutier.
Thompson.
Cloutier.
Yeah.
No, it's somebody on Loyola, I think.
Was it Pat Spencer?
2012.
No.
This was in
Was it Lyle Thompson?
2019.
Grant Ament. Mac O'Keefe.
In the
David
Justin
quarter,
Gardner.
quarterfinal
O'Keefe.
game. Yeah, it was Mac O'Keefe in the
right.
quarterfinals.
So now
Against
Dukes
Loyola.
is tied for 3. I'm
Oh,
gonna
Mitch.
give you boys a
In
warning.
Good job,
Connecticut.
Dukes. Good job.
Easy,
I was
Kevin.
You
at
have to
that
be
game. Damn
you
it.
have to be quick with this one, okay?
Okay. Okay.
So everyone's going to shout at once.
Everybody's
Corey
going to
Humphrey.
shout it at once. On that list with 9 was Gary Gate, Oliver Marty from Brown, Mac O'Keefe, which we just said. Who is the 4th player?
Lyle
Cloutier.
Thompson.
Chris Cloutier.
Bingo. Kevin Boylard.
All
Chris
right, yeah.
Cloutier.
Cool. Thank you.
So close yet so far.
Mitch, I can't
Yeah.
wait. Yeah. Mitch.
You made up-
is
you
just
made up
on too
ground.
much of it.
Mitch, we were playing ball knower just now.
Yeah.
Mitch is looking forward to the blueberries. He's
Mitch,
already
could
ready.
you just, you
I hope
should
you
hear
guys
it.
have a fantastic week, and I hope you guys
Mitch, drop us a
subscribe to the
fun
YouTube
fact.
channel, TLN. New
Fun fact.
episode every Tuesday, and a fun fact for you guys is
I got one for you.
I'll let Kev, hook us up.
All right. A vortex is a whirling spiral mass of fluid or liquid or gas that rotates around a central axis, often creating a low pressure cavity that draws materials inward, just like this podcast.
Bingo. See you next Tuesday.